Good afternoon.
Great to see you guys. And couple things, couple housekeeping announcements. You could please put yourself on mute if you're not already there. That will help with the sound. As you heard, we are recording this program, and we are going to be sending out the recording along with Barb's PowerPoint and her PDF document to everybody who is in membership. But I will also put the links for those two documents in to our chat once we begin. Lisa Ginsburg, the Director of Education. We also have, for a couple minutes, Anne-Marie Allen's going to stay on with us. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Many of you probably know Anne-Marie from our classes, from our education classes, from our continuing education classes. And we're lucky we have Lynn on today, Lynn Chair, our president. Hi, Lynn. Thanks for joining us today. If you don't mind, please turn on your camera. I know some of you do, and we'd love to see you. And if you have a question for Barb during the program, you can put it into the chat. There at the bottom of your toolbar, at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat box. Just click on it and put a question to everyone, and I'll make sure that Barb gets your question. She's also going to leave the, toward the end of the program, there's going to be an open discussion so that everyone can share, and we'd love to hear from you. That would make this even a better program. It's my pleasure to introduce our instructor, our speaker today, Barb. I'm just going to call you Barb Matty, if that's okay.
That's fine. It's totally fine.
Barb's been a realtor for 32 years. She's a full-time realtor and a full-time manager for the RE/MAX 440 office in Doylestown. Mm-hmm. She's certified as a residential specialist. She's certified as a distressed property expert, and she's a member of the RE/MAX Hall of Fame. She's a past president of the Montgomery County Board of Realtors. She was president there in 2016, and she serves as a director for both BCAR and the PA Board of Realtors. We're thrilled Barb made the switch to BCAR, I think last year. And she's also the co-chair of BCAR's Education Committee, which is responsible for putting on these programs. So thanks, Barb, for all of your activity and service for us. And I'm just going to say she's a new grandma. So she is a new grandma for baby Luca. So thanks for taking the time, Barb, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We're going to get started first with a video that that NAR has put out regarding safety. And I just want to start off to incite everybody to at least grab some of the things that we're talking about today and make it your own personal safety tool that you use. There's many things that are out there, but the most important one is the one you feel you're going to be comfortable enough to actually start to use to help make yourself more aware of the safety around you. So we'll get started with this.
As a real estate professional, you are in a unique position that most working professionals never face. In your business, you often share your contact information openly with others, meet unknown clients, and walk through vacant properties, to name a few. It's because of the unique nature of this business that it's critical for all real estate professionals to have personal safety protocols in place that you follow every day, with every client, every time. So what kind of safety protocols should you implement into your daily routine? Here are a few to consider. When meeting a client for the first time, do not meet a new client at a property right away without first having an initial meeting at your office or a public space, like a coffee shop. During the initial meeting, make copies or take photos of the client's driver's license and pre-approval letter for your records. This precaution allows you to keep a record at the office of who your clients are, their information, and a calendar of appointments. When first meeting with a new client, you should discuss the types of real estate they're interested in and walk them through the safety protocols you have in place for all clients. Now you can arrange showings, meet them at properties, and schedule open houses to help them through the biggest financial decision of their life. When viewing a property, it's okay to ask your client to drive separately. This is a safety precaution for you as much as it is for them. Not to mention, you might both have appointments to go to before or afterward.
Hey, this is cute.
As you tour a property, walk behind your client. This routine safety measure allows them to see the room first and make their own impressions. Many agents do not go into attics, garages, or basements as an additional safety measure, but encourage your client to look around and let you know what they think. It is a safe practice to only show vacant properties which might not have electricity during daylight hours. This allows you to see what safety hazards may exist, like a loose floorboard or any defects the house may have.
It's got potential.
When holding an open house, advise your clients to board their pets and remove jewelry, family photos, credit card receipts, artwork, prescription drugs, and any other valued possessions from the home in advance of the open house. This is just one way to look out for your client and to keep their property and belongings secure. Keep a record of who entered the house by asking everyone who walks in the door to sign in with their name and phone number or show a photo ID. There is something to be said about safety in numbers. Consider bringing along a colleague when holding an open house. If there are several potential buyers walking through the home, even better to have 2 agents on hand to answer questions and keep an eye on things. Safety is an important part of real estate. Be prepared and follow the protocols and processes that have been put in place to keep you and your clients safe. For more information and additional resources, visit www.nar.realtor/safety.
All right. Thank you all for listening to that. I
I'm
will.
telling you, between now and April.
Oh,
Nope.
Sorry. All right, let's get into the slides that we have. And I will tell you that this slide set is part of the class that we used to have for CE. I've shrunk it down to about 20 slides so that we're not going through everything, but there's some good points that you're going to find in here. The first slide that we have to talk about, these statistics are about 2 years old. But the situation in which realtors feared for their personal safety that they found were either during a showing or during an open house. And until you actually think about it, I can understand where these would be the most uncomfortable situations. The open house situation if you go back to when our market was not quite as active as it is or has been over the past year or so. We used to get 5, maybe 7 people through at a time, and they would never be all on top of each other at the same time. So it can be you're going to hear some more about where they're going to recommend strongly that you get more than one person to sit with you when you're doing an open house. And it's usually easier to get another agent from the office than it is to get a spouse to get up off of a football Sunday and actually go with you. I have to bribe mine pretty hard to make him do that. Another hot topic is that people feel uncomfortable when they're meeting a client for the first time. And a lot of offices have implemented pushing their agents to make sure they're meeting them at the office first. Now, I know myself as well, I've stretched my territory pretty far, so it's not always that my office is the most convenient, but if you don't have your office right there, then you should try and possibly meet them at a coffee shop or someplace that is a public setting before you meet them at that house first. Because often when you're doing a showing, you don't know the location of that house. You don't know how quiet that street is. You don't know if you're in more of a public setting, or even the access in and out of that street. Whether you're on a dead end road, it can be, it can raise the threat level if you end up in a very secluded situation. This way, if you get a chance to meet them in person someplace first, you get an opportunity to get a measure on who it is that you're working with. And one of the lowest points down here, which when I first started 30 some years ago wasn't, would be driving your client in your car. But I have to tell you, in the past, I don't think I've put a client in my car in probably 4 years, which is a good thing for the client, but not necessarily my car, because it's a bit of a mess right now. So used to make me keep it a lot cleaner. All right. So why do we think that real estate is such a risky business? And here's one of the things that I have heard through many of the different topics that have been, or presenters that have been teaching this. And that is that our business has presented itself as, they think, the world thinks we make a lot of money doing this. Whether it be the type of car that we drive, or whether it be the way we dress, we present ourselves as being successful business people. And because of that, a lot of people out there see this as an opportunity. So we have to find ways that we're not putting ourselves out there as at risk as much. A couple of these points that you're seeing in this slide, we've already discussed, as far as sitting open houses alone or entering vacant properties. But one of the things that that we also need to keep in mind is that we handle a lot of our clients' personal information. So make sure that we're providing a planned method for what we're doing for how we securely keep that personal information too. So that should be part of what we're thinking as far as handling for safety. So some of the main reasons why our business has become high risk is because 40% of our agents have actually moved to meeting buyers in their office at a neutral location before viewing at a home. And that's much higher than when we first started teaching this safety. When we started teaching safety in about 2016, that we weren't even in the 30s for this. So I'm glad to see that some of these numbers have gotten higher. Another area that has really helped us increase our safety has been the use of smartphone apps. And we'll talk more about them towards the end, because there's several of them that are out there now that hopefully you guys can make use of. All right. And the most important thing for us to do is to have a safety essential business system. What is it exactly that we are using on a regular basis? Whether it be the app or whether it be where we're meeting people, we've got to have a system in place. Sometimes it's our office, and what type of systems do they strongly recommend that we implement? And those should be discussions that you have with your broker. And one of the important points on this slide is that a lot of men don't believe that this is necessarily something that they need to pay attention to. But when we first came on, what I was discussing with Lisa is that many people don't realize that one of the last murders that we had happen with real estate was literally down in Delaware County. And it was a young man who was sitting new construction. And he was in his mid-20s, and he was found murdered at the site that day that he was sitting for that new construction. That was about 3, maybe 4 years ago. So don't just assume, men should not just assume that it's not something that applies to them. All right. So what we're going to discuss now is some of the key things that you need to think about when you're showing a property, when you're doing an open house, when you're going out on a listing appointment, and then what you're doing to help your sellers be more safe. So for property showing safety, again, come into the office, the CITO, which is the short version for what we're talking about. And that is trying to make sure that you're meeting your clients at the office for the first time. This gives you the opportunity to make a copy of a driver's license, make sure the person's name that they're giving you is actually who they really are. Another opportunity is doing background checks. And This is one of the apps that we'll talk about, which is called Forewarn, will actually allow you to do that. And that is available for you to be able to get independently. Another part that you want to keep in mind is that the office should know where you are or who you are with. And a lot of times when we're scheduling appointments, we're not telling other people where we're going or what we're doing. So either somebody in your family should know or somebody in the office should know exactly what your schedule is, and you should make that available for them. Another key point that you'll find in a lot of the training that we do at the national and state level is that to make sure you go to the property early. Have you walked through that property, and do you actually know, is there a back door? Does that basement have a way out? What are the potential areas that somebody could overtake you if need be? Do you know really where you are? So you need to do some investigating into that when you're going into a property that you've never been to before. Another good point is to think long and hard about not doing any showings after dark. And I know that we're getting ready to deal with time change soon, but this is a pretty key point, because you don't know whether there's electric on or there isn't at the property that you're going to. This next one is a key one, and that is park at the curb. And I found myself putting myself into this situation one too many times. It's often hard when there's not a lot of good parking around to just feel like, okay, I'm going to pull into that driveway. But if you're the first one in there and they pull in behind you, guess what? You're stuck there. You need to find an easy way in and an easy way out if you feel like you need to leave that situation. So don't be the one pulling in the driveway. Stay at the curb. Another key point is to only take into the showing your essentials, like your keys and your phone. One important part of that I'll share with you, and it's one of the PDFs that you'll have towards the end, and that is there are some key things that you can put on those key rings that'll be really helpful. Here's another important point, and I find myself not always following with this, and that's never turn your back on a prospect. It's easy for us to lead the way through that house when we're showing it, whether we're the first one up the steps or down the steps into the basement. It's easy to guide them by going first. Stop doing that. Stop making it so easy for them to be behind you. So start trying to think about that as you're going through these houses and showing things. And then the buddy up system, which is another key part. And if you're meeting somebody for the first time and you're just questioning where they're coming from, don't be alone in that car, even if you have to drag a spouse along and you have to pay a price. Sorry, it costs me money every time. All right. The open house or model home safety points that we want to push. The hard part with these is you don't have any opportunity to screen who's coming in that door. You really don't know who's coming. And, you know, I just to go back and bring up some of what we've had happen locally in our area, the Chalfont area, which is not far from my office, there was an older lady that was arrested for multiple robberies at open houses. And the only way they caught her, this was probably 4 years ago, and I don't know if anybody remembers this, but the only way they caught her was because she always had her granddaughter with her. And the granddaughter was the same. The older lady put a different wig on and a different outfit on every time she went to the open house. So it was really hard for them to figure out who she was. But the granddaughter, they could figure out because the granddaughter never changed her outfit. So open houses can be a easy target for people if they want to steal things. So keep that in mind. All right. So using the buddy system, and I often will do this within my office, and it's a great opportunity for those of us that have been in the business for a while to bring a newer agent alongside and say, let me just show you or teach you what we're doing in one of these open houses. Don't waste that opportunity. I very much enjoy teaching, and this is a great opportunity for you to not be alone by being able to offer that. If you're new to the property, make sure again that you get familiar with the property and the layout. And then of course, keeping people informed about exactly where you're at and what you're doing. Another key point that I've seen in many of the videos that we've used for teaching, and that is to talk to the neighbors. If you're going out putting those open house signs up, stop and knock on the door and ask not only for permission to put the sign, the directional at their property, but let them know what time you're going to be at the property. Because this is a good time for them to, if you're leaving and you're done at 3 o'clock and that sign's still up at 4, that's going to raise an alarm bell for somebody. All right, another point is to make sure you're having a sign in so that you're keeping a good record of everybody as they're coming and going. I often start with my sign-in sheets by filling out all the information so that people get into the routine of giving me a phone number or an email address and a full name. Because if you let the first person come in, they're just going to give you a name. They're not going to fill that information out. Excuse me. All right. Another key point is when you're closing up that property and you're going back to do the lights, look at it thoroughly. Don't go rushing out of that property. Look through and make sure if something doesn't seem right, because this is what a lot of times, if somebody's thinking of robbing that property, they're going to hide, and they're going to hide in there someplace where they can get stuff. So make sure you're looking thoroughly when you're leaving the property. And then again, buddy up. All right, listing appointment. A simple thing to do before you're going out to a listing that somebody may have called in and said, hey, I need to know what my house is worth. Get that name of that person and then go back through public records and make sure, is this really who the owner is? Because if it's not really who the owner is, that should be your first red flag. Ask the right questions. So who referred this caller? Do you have a connection from a previous client, or did they just call in? Get a history of the property. Has it sold recently? Has it not sold for a very long time? And then dig a little further into the safety apps that we have and find out, what's this neighborhood really look like if you're not familiar with it? And of course, if it doesn't feel right, leave immediately. Trust your inner sense. Don't hang out there longer than you have to. Okay. Here's another key part of what we need to make sure we're talking to our sellers with when they're listing their property, is making sure you have that conversation with them about how to make sure they're fully putting away the things that could be lures for other people. Have this conversation with them about, the valuables that they have. Are they in secure places? If they have any guns or ammunition someplace, make sure they understand they've got to have it locked. They've got to put it away and they've got to have it locked up. A key thing that I'll always tell my sellers is to take down their personal photos. I can't tell you how many times I've had people go through properties looking at all the pictures, trying to figure out whether they went to school with those people or not, or their kids go to school with them, or how they know them, or how they're connected. They're not looking at the house if they're looking at this stuff. They need to be focused on the house, not whose kids did what, Anything like jewelry, anything of value that people have in the property, if they have a painting of some kind that is worth a lot of money, it doesn't need to be up there to sell the house. It needs to be someplace more secure. And this is important to have this conversation before you actually do the virtual tours, because a lot of those people that are thinking of doing crimes out there are actually playing these virtual tours to see what they can size up in that property and maybe attempt to get. So make sure that the property is well secured, the personal information is away, and the valuables are not visible when you get into doing the video work for that property. And think about having the discussion with a client about getting any extra security while the property is on the market. A lot of our sellers are moving out before, leaving furniture behind, and the property is basically vacant at the time that it's on the market. And that might be a good time for you to think about getting a security system or camera placed where people can see what's going on. That being said, there are some rules coming out now about the video camera surveillance. It just simply needs to be notified. It needs to be visible that people are out, the cameras are running. And then you need to know that not everybody is telling you that honestly who they are or who they claim to be. So just be aware that the whole world out there is not the most honest. All right, so what is the crime equation? It's motive and opportunity equal crime. So if we can at least remove one of the two, we can stop the final part of that being crime. And this is a key point. This is why we're trying to implement some of these better practices so that we can stay safer. A lot of offices have started to implement the term distress codes. So if it's a common code used throughout the office, when you call into the main front office and you use that code, they know that you're in trouble. The key point to this, though, is do they know where you are? If they don't know where you are, it's a little difficult for them to really help you. So you need to be implementing a good system of where you're letting people know where you're going, as well as using the code words. All right. Again, there's a lot of talk that has been on getting us to shape our safety sense, our building safety sense, to help our survival instinct. And you'll find the more that you do with the business, the more that you're going to get a sense of what that, when your instinct doesn't feel right. So you need to get to know yourself well enough for that. And don't be afraid to leave. It depends on whether you are going to stay and fight or whether you're going to leave. Depends on a lot of these factors, whether or not you're physically capable, how close this attacker is to you, is there a presence of any weapons, and do you have any working knowledge of self-defense? Chris Beedling did a really, really good video with a lady who is wonderful at teaching self-defense, and that's available on the PAR website. I'll show it to you towards the end. But you want to play that, and you want to get familiar with whether or not you really want to take a self-defense class. It's a good idea. If you feel like you're physically capable of doing it, you should really get some better training in that. And we need to understand that our strongest defense is a plan of what you will do to avoid high-risk situations and what you will do if you find yourself in danger. You need to have your plan, and you need to know what you feel comfortable you're going to be able to do. Escaping the situation, if you feel threatened, you need to be comfortable that you can get out of that situation. Act decisively. Don't wait. Don't debate it. Just go. Don't apologize or announce the intention. Running away is a courageous act of fighting back. And if you can you make an escape? If you can size the situation up and do it, do it. And then the whole thought of fighting back, that's a conscious decision you need to be prepared to be able to do. So that's what these classes will teach you. So tools for defense. There are a lot of different things that are out there. I will show you on the PDF. There's several different types of pepper spray that you can put on a key ring that many people I know have used and found very effective. There are some tactical flashlights. There are some tactical pens. There's cameras for open houses that I have some realtor friends of mine that actually bring remote cameras that use during open houses. If you're techie enough to be able to do that, don't be afraid to do it. And then there's several apps that we'll talk about towards the end of this too, that I think we all should be making good use of. Spend some time on the NAR Realtor.org website, because there's some really good videos that are going to give you a deeper dive into this, so that you know what you should and shouldn't be doing. All right, let me get out of this. While I'm changing, oh, here we are. So this is the PDF that we're going to make sure everybody gets. So I'm not sure that everybody knows some of the different things that Showing Time has been able to do. First of all, there is a showing beacon that is a time timer that you can use when you're showing the property. And what it will do is, at the end of that timer, it will send an alert to who you set up as your emergency contact. So if you don't shut it off, it will set that alert out to whoever you set up in the system. Another key part that I want to make sure people are aware of is that there's something from the listing side called secure access. So what this does is, if you check the box when you're setting a listing up and loading it into Showing Time, it will not give the access code out until the agent gets within a half an hour of the showing and gets to the property. So all of us should have the GPS access on our phones, so that the Showing Time knows where you are. But also, by clicking this and not giving out that access code until 30 minutes before, it makes it much more secure from a listing standpoint, that agent that's showing it with that client isn't just going to give that code to the client. I hate to say this, but there are way too many agents that are out there that are giving these codes out to their clients, and the client is not going to think like we think about safety. The client is going to abuse this. They often think, oh, well, that property is vacant, I'll just go an hour later because I got to go to the grocery store first, or whatever they're doing. This is putting your seller at a much safer situation than just having that code out there anywhere. I am a big super fan, and I know a lot of people don't like it because they got to pay fees for it, but I'm going to tell you something. The only people that were allowed to use super to access a lockbox had this as an app on their phone, and they were realtors. Unfortunately, since most of us are using the dial-up boxes, it does create an insecure situation for our clients if they're living in that property. So please try and play with this part of the app and make sure you're using the Showing Time secure access from a listing standpoint. All right, another app that is free for you through BCAR is the Safe Showings app. It actually allows you to take it to capture a secure image of the client's face, as well as also offers the showing beacon, a lot like what Showing Time was talking about, as far as where we are, and then notifying authorities if we're not shutting that off at that time frame. Forewarn is another app. It's recommended actually by the FBI, and what this allows you to do is to load in a phone number and connect who that phone number belongs to, and do a criminal background check actually on somebody before you meet them. I have to tell you, I've been using this probably for the past 5 years. This, of all apps, has saved my life. I've do many rentals, and I've had some rentals that I handle for some clients that are up in the upper Montgomery County area, Green Lane, Red Hill area. And because it was a very cheap, affordable rental, and I'll back up one more way and tell you that when I handle a rental, I do many open houses. I don't just tell one person I'm going to be there at 7 o'clock at night to show them. If I'm going to do it for one person, I do it for 5 or 6. I tell them all to come at the same time. And I let them all know there's going to be multiple people there at the same time. It's like an open house. But I'll run their phone numbers through this app. And with this one particular property that I had up there, I had more than 4 people that had just been released from prison. Multitude of different situations for why they were in prison, but many of them were not good. So when I saw that, I knew I was not going by myself and I was not going to be alone when I was there. All right, some of these things that we can attach to our key rings. The personal alarms, you can get these on Amazon. And they are going to set out a siren so loud, it will scare the crap out of whoever is threatening you, because the whole block is going to hear it. The pepper spray gels are also, they come in a multitude of colors. They're also available on Amazon. And then ADT, I don't know if anybody else has gotten some of these emails lately, but this jewelry that ADT has, it's actually, all it does is once you press it, it sends out an SOS, a silent SOS, and a message link on where your location is. So they immediately know, and ADT will actively call 911 for you. So this actually, I think if some of us start using this and have a good experience with it, please reach out and let us know. It's fairly new, but it definitely, I think, would be a big plus. All right, so let's open this up. Can some of you turn your mute off and share with us some of the experiences that you've had while you've been out there in real estate? Has anybody found themselves in a situation that has not been so pleasant? Anybody? All right, well, while you're all being so quiet, what I want to make sure you all know is that if you go on parealtors.org, the art of personal safety is the video that you want to play. And Jennifer is excellent at teaching what she does with self-defense and self-defense training.
That person you were talking about in Chalfont, they did an agent in our Bluebell office.
Oh, really?
Yes. And was part of that, I'll call it investigation to catch them. Because they were at one of her open houses.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah. So, and those personal alarms, I can vouch for them. I bought one for my mother and she let it loose in a doctor's office. So I can tell you they're very loud. If anyone wants to know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well. Yeah, thanks, Mom.
Well, at least I know they work now.
That's true. Wow. Yeah, they're all over Amazon. There's a couple different kinds, but they weren't that expensive. Definitely.
No, that was one Christmas, every woman I know on my Christmas list got one.
Good. All right. Anybody got any questions? Anything? I would strongly encourage you to go on to both NAR and PAR and play some of these videos. The videos that they have that we used for the classes before, when we were counting them for CE, were really good at teaching you. I mean, you just don't think of ever looking, is there a back door and a front door? You don't think of showing up 10 minutes early just to walk through the property and get a feel for it, because you don't know if you're going to find yourself in a bad situation. And it was really helpful I got to stop being the first one to go down the steps, because I always am. You know, you just get yourself into these habits, and you need to think twice about them and not continue the same routines that you do.
Barb,
Yeah.
this is interesting because we did this all the time before COVID, but what I find creepy now is to be sharing the showing time with someone else. So, you know, you go into a house and now you have overlapping showings.
Mhm.
And so you have another agent and their crew through the house. And you can't keep track of them because most of the agents, you know, if you're in the basement, they go to the second floor, et cetera, but you don't know anything about
Those people. Yep.
Yes. Now, a lot of times I know the agent, but a lot of times I don't too.
Right.
So now you have a whole group of people walking through that house. You have no idea where they are or who they are.
Yeah.
And what's disconcerting is the idea to when that group comes in or you encounter that group, you can't tell who's the agent all the
Right.
time unless you personally know what that person looks like.
Yes.
Or recognize them because you've seen their card or their website or something that showed you their face.
Right. Yeah.
We're trusting that this person who says, "Oh, I'm the agent." I mean, I found myself saying, "Well, who's the agent?" And then realizing how stupid that statement is, because
Right.
Yeah.
you know, of course it's a question, but they could all say, "I am."
Well, they could. The other thing is a lot of times you don't even know they're in the house until you bump into them.
Right.
So it's not like they knock on the door. They just walk in.
So let me
that's
share
why
this.
I'll lock the house. Like if I'm going in, a lot of times I'll take the key and just lock the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't lock the door because I want to make sure it's easy access. But
That's true too. Right.
I understand that. Yeah.
So
I guess I'm working with somebody by then that I feel comfortable enough that
True.
they're not the threat. Hopefully.
Yeah. So one way it's a threat, and the other way it's a threat. So okay.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
there was a
Barb.
property across the street from my house that went up in the spring when the market was super hot. And it was in need of everything. Its price was right based on how much work it needed to have done. It was probably $100,000 under what some of the others had gone for in that neighborhood, but it needed a lot of work. Anyway, this agent allowed overlapping appointments, and that was a revolving door. When they went to present offers, they had over 80 offers because
ridiculous.
they had pricing. Yes,
That's
it was.
insane.
And
Like,
they
how do you-
allowed it. So every time I showed it, and I showed it to multiple clients, there were more than 4 different agents going through or sets of people going through. And every time there were sets of people that were there looking at that property did not have an agent with them.
Oh,
They
lovely.
simply allowed themselves in because the back door was open and they walked through the property while everybody else is walking through it. This is going to be another sore subject that is going to put people into a problem, because you can't be letting this information out.
There's got to be something that the onus has to be on us and I try to communicate to my clients pretty clearly that, look, you need to be at the home only with me or someone else I arrange on your behalf because of safety for the property owner. If it's occupied, myself, yourself, our reputations stand on that.
Correct.
And we look like fools when if we ever, any agent who allows that looks like a fool, in my opinion.
This is why I started from that point on, from seeing that house and seeing what happened with it. All of my listings, I use the secure showings through showing time.
True showing time.
And I cannot tell you how many times I'll get a call from an agent going, showing time's not giving me the code. And I'm like, okay, are you at the house? What time is your showing? But it's not giving me the code. And multiple times I've had agents turn around and tell me, well, I can't be there. Somebody else is showing it for me. Well, is that an agent? No, it's not an agent. Listen, it's happening. And we need to be the police.
It is against our code.
It
This
is.
against our code of ethics, and we
It
aren't we aren't bringing fines or holding them to task or to onus or responsibility on this crap.
Right.
Well,
I wasn't aware that showing time had that feature. And it annoys the crap out of me when they confirm and they don't send me the code. Because I've been in houses where I can't get it. I can't get a signal.
I will put when I'm using this, I will put it in the instructions to the agent that the secure showing is set up for this, and you will only get the code when you're at the property or within a half.
I think that's
a great.
I think that's a great idea. I'm going to start to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and especially when we start to get back into REOs, and
Yes.
we will.
Yes.
You know, this is perfect because they're the worst with
Yes.
people just giving out the code and, oh, go ahead.
But that's,
Kind of thing.
how do we stop, like with that house, the house that you used as an example, Barb, that's happening with that second, third, fourth showing, especially with something that needs rehab. You know, the guy wants to, or the gal or whoever wants to get back in there because they might have missed something and they're calculating and they're trying to figure out their offer or whatever. And whether an agent's busy, whatever the rationale is, they don't want to go to the property again.
So
Which is-
when you end up
unreasonable.
with that much activity on a property like that, you need to be putting in your dates of when you're going to be receiving all those offers. So if
Yeah,
you
of course.
if you're going to, rather than just throwing it up there, give a good 10 days to have that
Yeah.
on the market and make sure everybody understands you're not allowing overlapping offer showing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And or if you get that many, if you're getting more than 10 offers, in my opinion, you need to cut off. There's
Well,
too many.
how he managed to decipher 80 offers, I don't know.
No.
But yeah,
Yeah.
he created his own storm with that one, that's for sure.
Yeah, that hopefully that market's
well.
over, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well.
so yeah.
Anybody else want to share anything that's been an experience that they've had?
I'm happy to share just a little experience because I'm fairly new agent. And I was in the office and a colleague of mine had a house listed and it's near our office and she was not nearby. So she called me and she said, I have a guy who just pulled it, you know, the house it went up that morning. And she said, some guy just pulled up and he wants to see the house. Can you go meet him? So, you know, immediately I'm thinking, but wait, it's not September 29th. I haven't taken my safety, you know, like preparation class yet. So I kind of went through a bunch of stuff. Chris Beedling, I'm at Quinn and Wilson, and Chris Beedling, the PAR president, is my broker. So I thought, what would Chris do? So I went to somebody in the office and I said, here's where I'm going. Here's the guy's phone number. And when I get there, I'm going to take a picture of his license plate and his license and him. And I'm going to, you know, text it to you. And I'm going to tell him, you know, before we even go inside the property, that that's what I'm going to do. And that was the only thing I could think to do. And in the meantime, I stood kind of outside while he looked. It was a vacant house. So he looked at it. And in the meantime, my colleague quickly, he had told me that he was like a State Farm agent somewhere and he told me his name and she had Googled him and she sent me a screenshot like of his website so I could match that the guy I was seeing was also the guy in the picture on the website. And it was kind of like a haphazard way, but you know, it is a good idea. It's scary. And when I went in at one point, I kind of forgot. And I went in and I was showing him a walk-in closet. And I went into like with my arms out saying, look how big this closet is. It could be a nursery, you know, or a bedroom. And I realized like I'm in this closet.
Right.
And this guy's there, and he was twice my size, so it was an eye-opening experience for me. And even though I had tried to do things, to prepare, with my colleague, there I was in the closet, and he was standing there and nobody was around. So
Yeah.
it
And
happened.
you bring up a good point. So researching some people on social media is actually a good idea if you've not met them yet. It can be hard with the common name because there could be 100 of them out there with the same name, but do some of the research if you can, and try and connect the dots and see what kind of background you can find on them. That's a good idea. Anybody else want to share anything?
Open houses, I think what you covered on open houses is important. I remember I used to, I sold new construction at a couple different sites years ago. And when you're in that situation, especially if it's a site that's new, meaning that there's a lot of equipment, not a lot of houses, and therefore not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Knowing your doors and things like that. Because I remember vaguely there was it was a Saturday or a Sunday, I forget which day, but somebody was working overtime, thank goodness, on the site, moving dirt around. And I had 3 men came into the home, and I, the spidey senses went up for whatever reasons. And I, let them go through the house by themselves, which I typically did not do back then.
Yeah.
I don't know what I felt I was going to say that was, earth shattering, but I did. And I stayed and I kept the desk between myself, and there was a slider behind me. Obviously I was up in the sky, but at least I could jump. And actually the gentleman moving dirt around came over to that slider while they were in the house, because they were there and they stayed there acting as if they were going through the house, while 2 other couples came through and had gone through and left. And these guys never left. And he had come over, thank goodness, and said, "You okay in there? What's going on?" And when they heard me talking to a gentleman's voice, I gather, I don't know, I'm surmising here, they actually then vacated. And he said, "Look, I'm staying here until you're gone."
Good.
So, thank goodness for him. But
Yeah.
so you just never know. And when you really have to, like in anything, I think, and I don't mean to be sexist this way, what men do too, but we all have to be aware of our surroundings no matter where we are.
Yeah, we do. I think it's another important point that I would throw out there too. If you're going out to a property that you've never been to before, do the Google Maps on it and see how secluded the property is. I actually have had a few listings that were down such private roads or secluded so far, I wouldn't do an open house out there. And sometimes we have to make have that conversation with the listing or the seller and let them know, if I do one, you're staying, you stay through the open house as well. You're not going to be alone when you're doing that, because that sets you into a prime situation that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
Because the public can check those Google Maps too.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have all the same anymore. They have all the same information we do in regards to that.
Absolutely.
One of the things that you guys want, that we want to be aware of, is women are so much more aware of their surroundings and the fact that they need to be safe, and will openly talk about it. Men don't.
Correct.
And they need to hear this as much as women, probably as much or more, because they're not aware. So if you can start the conversation with the men in your office or, male agents, it really is a helpful thing for them, because they won't speak about it openly. Of course, I'm safe. If somebody is going into a house or in a house, when you get in there waiting to kill somebody, they don't really care about the sex.
No, you don't.
And what NAR is saying, and that was at, where was it? Washington, at the last meeting, that these people that are being targeted or hurt as realtors are actually being targeted. It's not that they're just it's not a crime of opportunity. It is calculated.
Right.
And
They are
calculate-
waiting. you.
Targeted based on just because they're a realtor and they perceive them to have something to steal? Is that
Just
what you're?
because they know the house is empty and that we're easy targets.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're being realtors. We're
Mhm.
being somebody that's stupid enough to walk in to an empty house.
Right.
Okay. Now, granted, that's our job, to walk in and show houses. But, the fact that Susan took the time to concern herself about who she was meeting, not a whole lot of people would do that. So Susan,
Right.
kudos to you.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the fact that you actually gave the number to somebody else, looked them up, that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
That just that little bit that you did, and you're thinking that you like just put it together like on the fly, that's way more than the average agent will do.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
even if we would just do that, we would save ourselves a lot of hurt and a lot of death. But
Absolutely.
men are as vulnerable as females in this.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And that's why I wanted to remind everybody that the one that we've lost so close to home was a young man.
Mm-hmm.
And statistics are at least one realtor a year dies.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're not just, beating our horn because we want to hear this information. This is one a year. Now, we don't want that one to be a Bucks County realtor
No, we don't.
ever. So, whatever we can do to prevent that, we'll do.
Well, thank you all. I really appreciate your feedback and I appreciate the conversation, and I hope that you got some things out of this, and I hope we're on to a safer interaction in our business.
This was really good, Barb. Thanks a lot.
Good.
Thank you, Barb.
Barb.
You're welcome.
I did put in the chat your PowerPoint as well as the safety tools, but it's also going to be sent out to all members either later this afternoon or tomorrow morning with this recording. So this was fantastic. Share it with the people who are in your office, please. And thank you so much, Barb. And thank you,
Yep.
Lynn, for being on. And we'll see you guys soon. In a couple weeks, we have Lawrence Yoon with an economic update on October 12th. So make sure to sign up for that one. That's going to be fantastic as well.
Well, we'll see you this afternoon at the Bucks break.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Bucks break is this afternoon.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. for
At
that as
Giuseppe's in
well.
Warminster. So please come.
Cool.
Love to
All right.
see you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.